What's up, Summoners? King Blair here. Today, we're going to be talking about the new update that just dropped, particularly the new changes that are coming your way in RTA for both the point systems as well as the mechanics in the actual fight. And we're also going to be talking about the other updates that came. This is kind of to take a replacement for the stream that we haven't been able to do in a time for a long time. I really do want to get back to the update streams, but as of right now, it's been a little bit too busy. So I'm trying to get these videos for you to get the information as well as to hear my opinion on the different topics. But without further ado, let's jump right into it. If you like the video, make sure you like, subscribe, and join the Discord server. Link down in the description. Without further ado, let's get right into it. There will also be sections for you to skip around to listen to a specific topic or the specific update to hear that discussion or my thoughts on it. But we're going to start with the RTA changes. If you didn't know, we officially are getting the new World Arena season, and it is going to be a made Chloe skin. And there are going to be changes to the point system as well as to the mechanics that are actually going on, as well as JP finally joining. So let's kind of break that down. Well, for the new arena season, there's going to be a lot. It's going to be the Make Chloe frame and the Japanese server. You'll actually be able to fight players in Japan, which you weren't able to actually do before in Climb and RTA. They finally cut up unit-wise, and they're able to actually come in and fight you guys. So there's going to be a lot more people taking the slots. One recommendation to everyone out there, if you're someone that doesn't like RTA too much, but wants the skin and you just want to get the skin and you don't want to fight a lot of people that are trying really hard, I suggest skipping the first month. RTA runs for 3 full months, and the first month is a lot of people actually trying to climb higher. And with the new point system, it's going to take even longer for the brackets to actually start filtering out by the actual skill level and the account level of the player. So I suggest if you're someone that's new to RTA, if you're not too comfortable with RTA, I suggest you kind of wait at least a month for that difference to start happening, for things to start settling. About a month and a half, so that you can come in and fight with people that are around your level and kind of test your mettle against them. No reason you can't start now, just know that you're most likely going to be losing more because the players that are going to be playing at the beginning of the season are going to be much stronger. So just a little caveat, but now let's actually get to the changes and the things for you to watch out for. So as you can see, the gaps actually are going to increase, and we'll talk about that as well. And the new skin is going to be Made Chloe. It's still the same, where if you get to Masters, you will get the Made Chloe skin. So they didn't change that. Master players will still get to get it. It's still 1,600 points. They seem to have kept the lower bracket of RTA for most of the players that are just getting in the skin and getting out, but they changed a lot of stuff for the players above that are trying to get the highest rank possible. As far as actual skin for Made Chloe, she's not personally my favorite, but I know a lot of people out there that this was their first MO 5-star and do like her. And I am curious to see what they're actually going to do with her. They kind of showed a little sneak peek, and she did look kind of cool, but we'll actually see when it actually comes down. But now as far as to the actual frames, this is going to be a different season from last season, because last season the Emperor and Ledger frame were really similar and the Champion and Emperor frame were very different. This time is like the other season before that, where the Legend and Emperor frame are pretty different. The Legend frame looks way better this time, and the Champion and Emperor frame is not as different as they were, but you can still see significant changes between them. As far as the actual point systems, it's a pretty big change. They're essentially wanting people to play more and trying to limit the inflation at the upper brackets, right? So if you didn't know, last season, Legend actually ended up being around like 4,800, and Emperor cutoff started at 4,200, right? It was an insane amount of points. So they changed the bracket levels to match kind of where you're going to be, as well as making it harder to climb through the brackets, right? Because here you see the 3,200, 2,600, 2,200, 1,900, they are making things slightly higher, making it harder for you to actually climb to stop that inflation. And the other part they're doing to stop that inflation is actually going to be changing the points, and they are going to be making you play more games. So what does that mean for the lower players? For the players that are just trying to get a Masters or even Challenger, right? For you players, there's functionally not as much change, but you're still going to have to play more games to get the same reward. What I mean by that, the point difference between victory and defeat is the same for pretty much all brackets. I think the only one that's weird is like gold for some reason, or master, but for the most part it kept the same changes, but they just lowered the amount of points you're actually getting. What that means is you're gonna have to play more games to get to the same amount of where you were before, but your losses take off less points as well, which means that if you had a 33% win rate and you were able to make it last season, you will be able to make it again. It's just going to take you more games to actually climb there, right? So just keep that in mind, that it is going to take a little longer. If you're someone that had a very low win rate and was actually able to make it to Masters, it's going to take you a little bit longer. Just keep that in mind. You may want to start a little bit earlier, maybe not the last week like normal, maybe start like 2 weeks before. or even a month if you wanted to just get it out of the way. So just something to keep in mind. Overall, the win rate does not change. If you have the same win rate, you should be able to reach it, but the amount of games you required will be more. Now, as far as the upper brackets, when you get to Champion, Emperor, and Legend, for Champion, you still see the point difference for winning and defeat actually got about it smaller, right? So it's only 3 points versus 4. They're making it harder for you to actually climb through Champion. You're getting less points, and if you lose, the difference before used to be 4 points from victory to defeat. Now it's only 3 points from 11 to 8 versus 14 to 10, right? Which means that you need slightly higher win rate to climb the rate you were before, as well as just more games to actually be able to climb higher up. And as far as Emperor, they made it way stricter. Same with Legend, with the point difference being just 1, which means if you have a 50% win rate, you are going to be climbing 1 point per 2 matches, essentially, right? That's not where you want to be, but that will fix that inflation that we were seeing before, because it will require players to actually have a decent positive win rate to be able to climb with the right amount of time. The only thing I will say for Legend that I think they maybe should change is to make the victory be +8 and be the defeat be -9. And you may be wondering, why would you do that? The big thing is to encourage players to actually have a positive win rate to actually be able to climb, as well as to make that inflation even smaller. Because with these changes, you can still just dump hundreds of games. As long as you have around a 49.9% win rate, you will be climbing, even if it's just 1 point every like 2 games. You'll eventually be climbing up and pushing that barrier up. But if they made it require a positive win rate, that Legend and Emperor level would not rise as fast, especially the Legend level, because it's hard for players to actually catch up and keep pushing the barrier, which is what makes players want to have to play more, right? So capping Legend, I feel like they should have maybe made it +8, -9 to force that positive win rate in Legend. But again, this is what they decided, which means that inflation is not going to be as bad, but it's still going to be a problem. But that's going to be it for the new RTA changes. Oh, I forgot. There's also the frenzy changes, right? So there's actually new frenzy changes in Arena. In RTA, I almost forgot. That's terrible of me. But essentially, the actual effects that are happening in RTA are going to be changing quite significantly. The biggest one is first, elemental advantage is way, way more important, right? What I mean by that, you'll see that right here. If you are the disadvantageous element, damage suffered from that element will be reduced by another 30%. This works for units that have 2 damage or have elemental advantage. What does that mean? Units like Rimuru, if they use S3 on Hua, his damage will be mitigated by 30%. Although Hua already kind of does that with the critical hit rates, it will do it for all of it. And for Hua, even though she penetrates defense by 100% and doesn't crit, if she attacks a water unit, she's also going to be losing 30% of that damage, which is pretty significant for both those heroes because it makes their matchups into the negative element for them be a little bit worse. So that it's a pretty big one. It does hurt them a lot for some matchups. Units like Violet kind of got weaker and stronger. They're better at stopping water units, but when they fight Charlotte or other fire units, it's going to be a lot harder for them to actually win because they have that 30% damage mitigation when they're the disadvantageous element. This does not apply to MO heroes though, so if you have light and dark, they are still doing the same amount of damage. They still have the elemental advantage against each other. They do not suffer from this 30% damage mitigation that you see right there, right? So you don't have that for the MO heroes, but for the RGB heroes, that's something you definitely need to watch out for. The other thing that it says is the final speed of Soul Weavers is increased by 20. This is actually wrong. They changed it in the actual notice that it's going to be +15. That's still pretty significant. So right there it says 20, it's actually 15. And that is going to play a big role because units like Amelia are going to be much faster, right? Soul Weavers were always not the fastest units in the game. And with this base speed, not base speed, but this speed change in battle, it's pretty significant. What that means and why I didn't say base speed is because it's not adding it to the base speed of the character. Speed set is not, they're not getting that benefit, that +20. That essentially means that units like, let's say Amelia, instead of actually being like 129, are more closer to like 125, right? Realistically, because you miss the benefit of the speed set since it's not added to your base speed, right? So just something to keep in mind. A lot of Soul Weavers, Amelia being the big one and DJ Bazaar being 2 big ones that you may want to start looking out for because they're going to have significantly faster speeds. And any Soul Weaver, every time you see them, keep it in mind, especially if you had Royale time to go after a certain unit, make sure you know that she's getting a 15% speed increase, right? So you need to make sure your speed tuning matches this new RTA change. But that is going to be it as far as the RTA changes go. Essentially, to summarize everything, the new point system, harder to climb, more inflation, or less inflation, but because there's less points, And as far as the skin, it's going to be the May Chloe skin. And as far as the changes, elemental disadvantage is way more important because you get a proof of valor passive essentially when you're at a disadvantageous element, and soul weavers are getting much faster. Right. So now let's go to the rest of the news. Not too much on this part, kind of just summarizing everything that's going on. That was kind of the big patch portion, but there's also some really cool April Fool's event that they added. If you didn't know, make sure you're doing these events because you don't get too much time. The first one's going to be that you get to a free summoning period, right? Make sure you're logging in, right? If you haven't logged in sometime, you do get 3 days of 10x summoning. Make sure you do get those. The other one is going to actually be the new side stories that they added. They have very, very short durations. I clicked on the exact same thing twice. But if we go here to the April's Fool's Unbelievable Day, you actually are getting 2 side stories that are kind of fun, super short, but they're not out for too long, so make sure you're doing them. I believe they're going to be gone on Sunday. Yeah, they're gone really soon. Make sure you do these as soon as possible. I know you guys like to stall on your side stories. Don't do it for this one. This one goes away the 3rd. This one does as well. 2 side stories. They have rewards. Make sure you do them. They're super quick, super fun, super funny. Some of my favorite side stories in the game, honestly. Make sure you're doing them. Make sure you're getting your stuff. And yeah, that's kind of about it as far as the game news goes, the important game news. So hopefully you're ready for those new RTA changes that are going to be coming your way. Make sure you're ready for the Hunt event weekend that is coming up. And make sure that you are doing those side stories because they don't have that much time. But that is all I have for you guys today. I hope y'all enjoyed, and I will see you next time. Peace.